Folks, the weather on the beach on Maui can't be a whole lot better than it is in late October in Kansas City. Yesterday in the mid-70s, today about 70, tonight in the 60s. Just gorgeous as we get set for Game 6. For the Cardinals tonight, Ozzie Smith, who had a lot of experience leading off when he was the San Diego shortstop, is on top tonight, and Willie McGee is back where he was for most of the regular year in the second spot. Tom Herr bats third as usual. Jack Clark is the Cardinal cleanup hitter. And against the lefty Lebrand, it's Tito Landrum hitting fifth. Then a flip-flop. Terry Pendleton goes from 7 to 6, and Cesar Cedeno drops to number 7 in the order. Darrell Porter is the Cardinal catcher, and on the mound, Danny Cox. And for the Kansas City Royals defensively, it's Steve Balboni at first base, still trying to get untracked at the plate. The second baseman is Frank White, big hero in Game 3. Buddy Biancalana making a big name for himself in the World Series. The shortstop, and George Brett is at third, and he says he's fine. In the outfield, Lonnie Smith in left, and in center field, Willie Wilson, who made that scintillating catch in St. Louis. And a ball over his head. Pat Sheridan starting in right field with the right-hander working for St. Louis. Jim Sundberg, very instrumental in the victory for KC the other night, scoring the go-ahead run. And Charlie Lebrand, somehow keeping his wits about him. A very friendly, good guy, and a fellow who, for the first time in his career the other night, did not come out to face reporters. He said it was simply a little too much. He's always come out. He has always been very accessible and very polite, and did attend a press conference yesterday. Said that was just a little bit too much. So Jim Quick is back at the plate, National League umpire tonight. Denkinger at first, Williams at second, McKean at third, Engel down the line in left, and Shulock down the line in right. Ozzie Smith to lead things off, and Whitey Herzog is the man who has made the lineup change tonight. Willie McGee has been leading off throughout the World Series in the absence of Vince Coleman. But McGee drops to 2, and Smith takes low, ball 1. There is Vince Coleman, who is naturally out, as you know. 6 weeks rest prescribed for him because of that incident with a tarpaulin. The 1-0 pitch is fouled back, and it's 1-1. Funny here, Tim, that all of the talk about the Royals not scoring and what's Hauser going to do with his lineup, and here's Herzog who makes the switch.
Yeah, Ozzie Smith, a bit of a problem, I think, batting in that number 2 hole, 1 for 16, and kind of unusual that Whitey would move him into the number 1 hole.
Herzog was saying before the game that Smith should be comfortable there with a lot of experience when he was a Padre, and as you look at it, batting in this spot for the first time since 1983, McGee is probably more comfortable hitting second. Brett knocks it down, recovers, throws, and still gets him for the out. So he hit it hard enough for George to be able to make the play. And Smith is 1 for 17.
Well, George gets in front of the ball. If you do get in front of the ball, you still know you have enough time if you make a good throw. There you see the throw by a step.
One out with the bases empty, and Willie McGee, who hit second during the regular season much of the year, had been moved because of the Coleman injury into the number 1 spot. And McGee quietly having a decent series, 7 for 19. Half swing strike, and the count is 0-1.
Seemed like a relatively easy play for Brett, but a lot of third basemen, if they back up, what they do is to take it off the chest instead of being in front of the ball. Caroms off to the left and right. You keep the ball in front of your third, and you have any kind of arm at all. You have momentum going towards first base, and it makes the play a lot easier.
Crowd, some of the crowd anyway, about 50 or 100 chanting Charlie, Charlie, trying to get the rest of them stirred up, and the count 1-2.
Talking to pitching coach Gary Blaylock, and I said, well, what's velocity on Lebrand's fastball? He said, around average, around 85 miles per hour. But what makes it really a better than average fastball is he has a great changeup, and it's something that he came up with in winter ball of 1983. He was really much a kind of a journeyman pitcher. He pitched in the National League a couple of years, never overpowering, never effective. Came up with a changeup, and it made his fastball look about 3 feet longer.
In the air to center field, and an easy play. Willie Wilson. 2 out, bases empty, and Tommy Herr, the batter. It's an expectant crowd. You can really feel it. They felt that once they could get the series back to Kansas City, the fans and the players alike, that things would swing over to the Royals side. And who's to dispute it right now?
We mentioned the other night also that the Cardinals have not been swept at home all season. And realistically, Kansas City went to St. Louis and did what they wanted to do. Naturally, you'll take 3 in a row, but 2 out of 3 is the next best thing.
Tommy Herr, who has not driven in a run in this World Series in 5 games after driving in 110 during the regular season. Two out, no one on. 1-1 the count. Herr hit .282 right-handed this year. He was better the other way at .313.
When you talk about Tommy Herr, you're talking about discipline, and that's the one thing I think that has affected him. We talked about the scouting reports. I don't believe he really knows the Kansas City pitchers, and then when you couple with that, but they have outstanding ability.
An appropriate sign for a game 6.
We'll be talking all night about Lee Brandt staying out of the middle of the plate. If you go back and look at this series, the 2 pitchers that have had trouble are Bob Forsch and Joaquin Andujar. All the other pitchers have stayed really away from the center of the plate. And you know, Tim, if you're catching a ball game and your pitcher's in the middle of the plate, even if he might be able to be a tip-top Morel for maybe an inning or 2, but over the long haul, you better stay on the corners.
And Herr strikes out. So a most promising beginning for the Royals as Lee Brandt sets them down in order. And at the end of a half inning in game 6 in Royal Stadium, Cards nothing. Royals coming up. For the Royals tonight, Dick Hauser will play the exact hand that won game 5. Lonnie Smith will lead things off. And then Willie Wilson, who had a key triple the other night, is in center field batting second. George Brett, as usual, none the worse for wear, batting third. Frank White, once more the cleanup hitter. Pat Sheridan slumping in this series in right field batting fifth. Steve Balboni still trying to get on track. The catcher, Jim Sundberg, bats number 7. Buddy Biancalana having a good series, hitting 8th. And on the mound, Charlie Lee Brandt. Cardinals defensively, the outfield of Tito Landrum, Willie McGee, and Cesar Cedeno, with Pendleton, Smith, Herr, and Clark in the infield. Darrell Porter gets the start. He caught the first 3 games, and then Tom Nieto caught 2. And Danny Cox on the mound. Cox, the 3rd winningest pitcher, and you don't often see an 18-game winner have 2 fellas win more on the same staff, but that was the story with John Tudor and Joaquin Andujar. And ironically, it is Andujar who is one of the long men tonight. He's out of the rotation.
We talked about the balance in this team. Not only do they have a great team balance offensively and defensively, but in the pitching, they have a great bullpen. We talked about the 5 guys to do the job out there. If you're Whitey Herzog, you want to have a deep staff. It's nice to have Andujar with 21 wins and Tudor with 21 wins, and also having a guy like Cox that pitched a lot of innings and has a low earned run average.
Up high to Lonnie Smith. 1-0 is Smith, Wilson, and Brett in the bottom of the 1st inning. Just a gorgeous night. Temperature in the 60s, light breeze. Just a sweater necessary. And a light one at that. 1-1 the count.
Danny Cox, a dart thrower. He has to be very fine. Works the inside part of the plate and the outside part of the plate. He's got a good straight change, but his best pitch is his slider. And as we said in the opening, it'll be interesting to see if that elbow is going to be irritated. And there was the slider right there.
2-1 the count.
It's also the kind of injury when you, my elbow always seemed to hurt. The longer you pitch, the more it hurts. because the aggravation just builds up. It's a type of pitch that you might go 4 or 5 innings. And when I talked to Danny a couple of days ago, he said, number one, it gets better with more rest, which he's had, which is probably why we didn't see him pitching on Thursday night. And number two, as the game goes along, it gets a little bit sore.
3-2 the count. Off balance follow through. Is that indicative of anything to you, Tim?
Well, if I were a pitcher, I would never have been concerned about the follow-through. It's how you deliver the ball to the plate. Some of the greatest pitchers that have ever pitched had the worst follow-throughs. Bob Gibson was one of them.
I was thinking about that only as a possible suggestion of, is he trying to do something maybe a little differently because the elbow could be bothering him? Then he winds up off balance. Thought out of left field, but
I would think, though, Al, of course, I pitched on this mound many times. This is a mound that is a lot usually flatter when you get out there than the warm-up mound. Therefore, sometimes it takes a while to adjust.
And that's ripped fair down the line and into the left field corner. Lonnie Smith can run, and he has an easy double.
This was a slider, but it was not a quality slider. Kind of hung right over the plate, and Lonnie Smith does with it what a lot of hitters will do, and that slider does not break. A rope down the left field line, and Lonnie has the Royals with a chance to score some runs here in the first inning.
Now, one thing Smith did in one of the league championship series games is start the first inning with a double, and the next thing you know, he stole third, so that Wilson wouldn't have to think about only advancing him but scoring him.
Well, Darrell Porter does not have a good throwing arm. One thing Kansas City has been throughout the series, been very aggressive on the base runners. Excuse me, the base pass. Actually, sometimes they run themselves right out of some innings.
Smith cheating over a little bit toward the bag at second to keep Lonnie Smith close. And it's up high. Willie Wilson has more hits than anybody in the series thus far, a total of 8, batting .364.
This is a very difficult situation for the third baseman. He's got speed to his left on second and speed at the plate.
1-2 on Willie Wilson.
Of course, there are 2 strikes right now, and he doesn't really have to worry about the bunt, so he'll drop back a couple of steps, as you see Terry Pendleton do. But up to 2 strikes, if you're concerned about the bunt and you move in thinking the hitter will bunt the ball, then to Lonnie Smith, who's on second base, if he steals, there's not a chance for him to get back to third, and that's what happened to Garth Orge of the Toronto Blue Jays when Smith took off.
High. It becomes very important for Wilson to get on for the Royals. If he doesn't, you leave first base vacant, and even though you might not walk Brett intentionally, you'll probably pitch around him, which is tougher to do when first base is occupied. And Wilson grounds it down to her at second. He advances the runner. Smith moves up 90 feet, and here comes Brett. The other night, you all recall this, the play that will live in our memory banks for a while. Sliding into the dugout, the great save by Lee May, and also Mike Jones, a pitcher, getting partial credit for it as well. And Brett just fine. In fact, he signaled in the only other at-bat he had that night following the incident. Had a little blurry vision after the game. They took him out defensively in the 9th inning and inserted Greg Pryor, but he says he's fine. No aches, no pains. Sees things perfectly. 0-1 the count.
I was kidding with Lee May, the batting instructor. I said, Lee, I can see that if you're going to try to save one hitter on your team, it might be George Brett.
When you're the batting coach, that's got to be your top priority.
Exactly.
It's a bit of a surprise why Whitey Herzog's pitching to George Brett. If you remember back in Game 3, he walked Brett with Willie Wilson at second base in the first inning.
And the the count, 1-2.
Well, he really may not be pitching to him. That ball, and we talked about this with Cox 93 miles per hour on the radar gun, is that Will George, when he knows he's probably not going to get too many good pitches to hit, expand the strike zone. Right there, you saw him swinging a ball over his head.
2-2.
There's a difference, however, when you pitch around a hitter with the runner at third base as opposed to pitching around a hitter with the runner at second base. If you make a wild pitch or a pass ball with a guy on second, he goes to third. Do it with Smith at third, and he scores.
Infield is playing back. And the 2-2 pitch is strike 3 called. Jim Quick, National League umpire, bringing out Brett.
Well, we've talked about how the strike zone has come down. Right here, ball does tail back, ends up almost inside middle. I think George Brett thought the ball was high.
Now,
this year, yes. You used to get that pitch all the time. Very rarely do you get that pitch.
and the call from a National League umpire. So Brett strikes out, 2 down. Lonnie Smith, the runner, at third. No score, bottom of the first inning. And White at the plate. In there, 0-1. White has more RBIs than anybody else in the series, a total of 5. He also has 3 doubles. He was the big star in Game 3 when the Royals won 6-1 with a double and a home run and 3 RBIs. 1-1 the count.
To me, it's always interesting, and Tim, you caught for eons, but it's amazing, even though you do have the inside protector, each umpire's strike zone does differ.
No appeal, or they don't get the appeal from Don Denkinger. 2-1 the count.
Well, you see the umpire working the slot. That means the slot between the hitter and the catcher. Frank White very close to going around, but first base umpire Don Denkinger says no, sir.
Lonnie Smith at third, 2 out. And the 2-1 to White is grounded toward the hole. Ozzie Smith up with it and gets him. A leadoff double by Lonnie Smith is wasted. No score after 1. Here I visited with Charlie.
Do you feel at all maybe jinxed the way things have been going?
Well, I don't know. I've been fortunate enough to pitch some pretty good ball games. If I can do that again, I think my chances should be a little bit better. Maybe with Quiz out in the bullpen, we might come to him a little bit earlier. I don't know, but I still felt confident even late into the ball game. I know it's going to enter my mind if I'm fortunate enough to get that far into the 9th. But I haven't had too much success in 9th innings. But I still felt my stuff was good. I still felt confident I was going to get out. I just couldn't get out. Hopefully this will be different.
Well, we'll find out. No score with Landrum, Pendleton, and Cedeno in the top of the 8th inning. Landrum fouling it away, and the count is 0-2. Landrum has twice flied to right. To the count. Brett again guarding the line, back of the bag at third. Balboni guarding the line at first. To center field. Willie Wilson is right there. And Tito Landrum is 0 for 3. 1 away. Pendleton the batter. The Cardinals have 2 hits tonight. And neither was what you'd call a solid hit. A fly ball to left field by Cedeno that fell in front of Smith, and a looper to right by Porter that came successively in the 6th inning.
Cardinals team average during the series is 196 coming into this game, and the Red Sox back in 1918 won the series in 6 games with a 186 average.
That's grounded into the hole for a base hit, and so Pendleton, who had been getting pretty quiet, makes makes a little bit of noise. A single to right with 1 out in the 8th inning, and Cedeno coming up.
Well, this is the way you have to hit Charlie Lebrand. You have to go with the pitch. Goes right out and gets it. Doesn't try to pull it. Tim's alluded all night to Ozzie Smith and other Cardinal hitters trying to go out and get that ball and pull it. You can't do it and be successful.
Cedeno struck out, broke up the perfect game with a 6th inning single. Pendleton at first base. You know, he sort of left unanswered that question of why Quisenberry was up in the bullpen if Hauser didn't bring him in, as you look at Herzog. And wouldn't Vidal Sassoon like to get a hold of Whitey, by the way. But I guess as the throw goes to first base, what Hauser wanted was at least to have the option, and I'm sure did not make the decision until he was confronted with that particular situation. There was some question perhaps in his mind as the inning developed, and he wanted to be able to go either way. And then he just simply opted at the last moment for Lebrand to hit with 2 on and 2 out.
Also, I talked to Dan, and he said a lot of pitchers can just get up and start throwing. He has to stretch, and he has to throw, and sometimes his arm is stiff, and he has not gotten as much work as he normally gets. So it's maybe getting ready for the next time he'll have to get up.
0-1 the count.
If the count evens up, if this next pitch is a ball, I would look for Pendleton to run. Pendleton with good speed. He has 17 stolen bases on the regular season. Cedeno a contact hitter, the bottom of the order coming up. All the elements are there for a hit and run, but not on this pitch.
When do you pitch out?
Well, that's the thing. The danger of the pitch out is greater when the pitcher is ahead of the hitter because you can afford to waste one. We'll see.
1-1.
Talk about a hit and run, and what you try to do is get the middle infielders to move, create a hole that might not be there.
If you're a runner at first base, you cannot be picked off in a hit and run situation. Same is true if the count's 3-2 and less than 2 out, and you're the runner at first. You're much more deliberate in your lead.
You're looking at catcher Jim Sundberg, looking over at Dick Hauser. They do have 4 signs.
Pitch out, 2-1.
Dick Hauser controls the pitch outs. I'll tell you, I'd have pitched out then too. Sometimes you do it and you're just wrong. But now he's behind, and you may see the hit and run in order right here.
I think he's going.
I do too.
James?
I concur.
Bet your house on it.
Or Sheridan's house. It's still for sale. He doesn't go. 2-2. Well, there goes the mortgage and everything else and the furnishings.
Mine too. Jim?
I mean, too bad about Pat Sheridan. He just lost his house for him.
Well, the other night we all thought that they should have been running first and second with nobody out, and had they been running, it wouldn't have been a double play.
That's right.
On the Pendleton to her play in St. Louis. 2-2 the count. Still think he's going here. Nope, he stays, and it's inside, and they throw back to first, not in time. So now it's 3-2.
Well, he's got to be running here. 3-2 and 1 out and good speed. Pendleton going out to check the dirt at first base. Close play at first base. Pendleton diving back, and Balboni with that quick tag. Good throw by Sundberg, but he's safe.
I say he's going. You say he's going.
Yeah.
Jim? All right, bet that hotel room that you moved into after you lost the house. 3-2 with 1 out.
Same situation, 3-2, 1 out. You cannot be picked off. It's up to the hitter to put the ball in play.
Lee Brandt with an excellent move, had 8 pickoffs this year.
He runs, the pitch is low, and it's first and second. 2 on, 1 out, and now Porter is coming up with a pitcher due up after Darrell.
Well, 0-0. You can't make a pitch in the middle of the plate. Just misses on the inside part of the plate. Ball 4.
Meanwhile, in the bullpen, Quisenberry and Black are up. Quisenberry, the right-hander, and Buddy Black, the starter, who is naturally working out of the bullpen under these circumstances. And in the Cardinal bullpen, Ken Daly has gotten up, the left-hander, because Herzog will have a decision to make if Porter can't get the man in.
We talked about in the pregame show, Charlie Lee ran through 140 pitches last time he pitched. 0-0 game. Every pitch could mean the ball game. He's got to be a little bit tired.
Strike, 0-1.
A lot different pitching a 0-0 game, a 2-1, a 1-0 ball game. The other 2 Kansas City wins, 6-1, 6-1. Make a mistake, it doesn't seem that monumental.
And Porter rips it foul, and the count is 0-2. Last time Lee Brandt had first and second, 1 out. He got Ozzie Smith to hit into a double play. Hauser looking at the lineup card, knowing the pitcher comes up next, knowing that Herzog, if Porter doesn't get Pendleton home, has a choice to make. Similar to the one Dick had to make, but Whitey has more options. He's got a much deeper bullpen, and Cox gave him the 7 innings that he wanted. So whereas Hauser opted for Lee Brandt, I tend to feel Herzog with that deep bullpen would opt for a pinch hitter. Strike 3 called.
Jim, you mentioned earlier that when a catcher moves off the plate away, if a pitcher's been having good control throughout the game, he'll get that pitch. And that's the reason that Darrell Porter was struck out on that particular pitch. That ball was right there, and now Whitey Herzog has gone to Brian Harper.
Harper, the right-handed pinch hitter, came up only 52 times this year and batted .250 with 8 runs batted in. So again, because of the flexibility and the maneuverability, and Daly now throwing in the bullpen, and keep in mind he has 5 men who work out of the bullpen, 3.5 of whom he would bring in here, and I say 3.5 meaning Horton as the half a guy. You know Worrell, you know Lottie, and you know Daly, with Pendleton at second and Cedeno at first, and Horton maybe to 1 batter. Campbell's more of a long man, and that's why he can afford to lift his pitcher more so than Hauser in the bottom of the 7th inning.
Also, we talked about losing Vince Coleman. Got to think that Tito Landrum would be batting right here. 391 on the year, second best pinch hitter in the National League, but because of Coleman's absence, you have to send somebody else up there.
Brian Harper was the fellow who came over in that deal with Pittsburgh along with Tudor. He was the other guy in a deal that sent George Hendrick and a minor leaguer to Pittsburgh. Now, the Pirates, as you all know, had a terrible year, and think about that trade. Ugh. Fouled again, so he's jammed him twice, and the count is 0-2.
George Hendrick wound up with the California Angels. As you see Brian Harper trying to fight off this slider on the fist. And once again, Lee Brandt ahead, 0-2.
2 on, 2 out. struck out only 3 times this season in 52 at-bats. A little soft looper, and it's into center for a base hit, and the Cardinals take the lead. And Charlie Leibrandt has to be talking to himself.
Well, he just missed away. Tries to come back up and in. Not hit very hard, but hit hard enough. Right off the fist.
Watch the reaction by Brian Harper when this ball falls.
So the Cardinals lead it 1-0, and Ozzie Smith is at the plate with Cedeno at second and Harper at first. And that's a strike. In the bottom of the inning, it's the top of the order for KC. Smith, Wilson, and Brett.
This is the time when it's most difficult for a pitcher. Emotionally, it's always a roller coaster. Your heart's down by your knees. Your disappointment is unparalleled. But the only way you have a chance to win the ball game is if you can get the next hitter out.
All of the runs that Leibrandt has given up, the 4 last Sunday and the 1 here tonight, have been given up with 2 out.
And Sundberg goes to the mound. That's a good thing to do, I think, right now, because you're down 1-0, and another base hit, and it's 2-0, and Blaylock's going to the mound. It's so visible, and how can you blame Leibrandt? If this happened isolated, you could feel for the guy. And yet you've all watched him now throughout the playoffs and going back to last year. And the miserable luck he's had. Meanwhile, Andy Van Slyke now comes out of the dugout to run for Cesar Cedeno. After the count had gone to 1-1, Herzog makes the change. And Van Slyke naturally will stay in the game and play right field.
Thoughts are, when am I going to catch a break? No doubt you feel sorry for yourself, but on the other hand, as you said, you can't let the game get out of control.
Yeah, because those tack-on runs can be the difference. Got to stop them right here, and that obviously is what Leibrandt's trying to do.
2-1. And now it's 2-2 on Ozzie.
If the Cardinals go on to win this game 1-0 and don't get 3 or 4 more hits, they will have the lowest team batting average in the history of the World Series to be a winner. Amazing.
Just inside, and Sundberg not only trying to frame the pitch, and Hauser is furious with Jim Quick. If he comes out to argue, then he's out of the game.
Well, he goes back. Brett was up earlier. Similar pitch.
Ooh. Ooh. And that's the most emotion you've ever seen from Dick Hauser. Because he knows now the runners are going. It's 3-2. That was a vital pitch. And it's high, so the bases are loaded for Willie McGee. And Hauser is just seething, but he has to maintain his composure. He's going to the mound, and that second visit will mean exit Leibrandt and enter Quisenberry or Black, depending on which way Hauser wants McGee to hit, and Willie has been remarkably consistent from both sides this year. Just an 8-point differential, so you're not doing him a favor by making him bat from either side. And Leibrandt will come out to a no doubt thunderous ovation. But on the debit side again, and the signal goes goes to the right-hander, Quisenberry. So McGee will bat left-handed. The base is loaded. Listen to the hand. We'll return after this from your local station. Dan Quisenberry comes in with the Cardinals on top 1-0. Whitey Herzog making another move as you look at Charlie Leibrandt watching Quiz try to get out of the rest of this jam. Andy Van Slyke, the runner, at third, and Harper has been taken out for the pinch runner. Tom Lawless makes his first postseason appearance. He's at second. Ozzie Smith at first. The base is loaded and 2 out, and McGee at the plate. McGee 0 for 3. Foul back, 0-1. Again, in the bottom of the inning, Lonnie Smith, Wilson, and Brett, the top 3 for KC.
Quisenberry, once he got ahead, just showing him that fastball inside, because the sinker ball pitcher to a left-handed hitter has to keep the ball away, generally speaking, to be effective.
That's grounded toward the middle. White is there. It goes the short way to Biancalana. So Frank ranges back of second, and the National League batting champion retired on a force.
And a good play by Frank White over to Biancalana to give the Kansas City Royals life.
Andy Van Slyke is now in right field. He came in as the pinch runner, and the pitcher is Ken Daly. Daly's numbers there for this, his first full season in the major leagues. He had been up and down with Atlanta, then came over to the Cards last year, pitched for 4 different teams in '84, and has begun to come into his own now. And the left-hander comes in here. And how does Herzog, and we've talked about how he uses his bullpen, how does he decide on Daly over Worrell and Lottie here? One of the reasons is he wants the left-hander to face the top of the order for Kansas City. He'd rather have Wilson at right-handed than lefty, and he'd rather have Brett have to face a left-handed pitcher. So that pretty much is the determination as to why Daly is in here now.
So even if there is a 3-up and 3-down inning, Todd Worrell may finish the ball game, work the bottom of the 9th inning. Matter of fact, I think he's up right now in the bullpen.
He is. Lonnie Smith, who was 1 for 3 against Cox. 0-1. There is Todd. Boy, he has thrown 2 good fastballs. 95 is what the gun says on that one.
We haven't seen his curveball yet. He's got a great hook.
Wonder if we'll see it here. No. Another fastball, and it's still 0-2.
Well, it's what we talked about, a similar case late in the season, pitching against the New York Mets. He throws a great curveball at Darryl Strawberry, and the next one goes off the clock, which is about 450 feet. You throw 2 fastballs by a guy, in this situation, you usually want to get beat with your best pitch.
1-2.
Another thing, when you've seen another team play for 6 games, if you're doing your homework out in the bullpen, which I'm sure Ken Daly's doing, you know that Lonnie Smith's an aggressive hitter. He is a high ball hitter, but when he swings through 2 fastballs, you know he will maybe go for another one.
And down he goes. A foul tip on a check swing, and it's held by Porter. And Smith is angry, contending he did not foul tip it. And Ferraro has to sprint down from third to get Smith away.
Willie Wilson.
Well, let's see if he didn't foul tip it. Did he go around? Leads with the hands through the strike zone. He really went too far. I mean, it's a strike whether he foul tipped it or not.
Yep. And it wasn't that far out of the zone.
Right.
Wilson takes low. He might have been out on 3 counts. A half swing, a called strike, and a foul tip. But the frustration showing right there, and that's why he barked it quick. On Wilson with Brett on deck.
And you notice Pendleton off the line. It's just a matter of, as you see George Brett on deck, Pendleton off the line, Jack Clark off the line, and they weren't playing Lonnie Smith off the line, on the line either. 1-run ball game in the 8th.
It's a matter of philosophy.
You know, when you think about it, if you play Willie Wilson on the line and he gets a single, chances of him stealing second base are great anyway. So in effect, Wilson, a single is a double for him. So playing off the line, in my opinion, is the proper thing to do now.
Except would a single be a double with Brett on deck in this situation? What do you think?
With the left-hander up. Well, that's an arguable point.
Well, I don't think it would be, because you got to have a lot of guts to walk the winning run to first base. Even if it is George Brett.
That's a strike, and now it's 3-2.
Well, if you walk Brett to first base and Wilson steals, then you got Todd Worrell pitching to Frank White. A lot of things could happen, depending on whether Wilson gets on or not, of course.
And it's high, ball 4. Whew, what a pitch to take, 3-2. Oh.
Well, again, during the regular season, you just go down to first. Tonight, there's been a lot of high strikes. Oh, Wilson knows that it's a ball. Would have done a complete snap if that was called a strike.
George Brett.
We've talked about George Brett, situation hitter. This situation, he's looking for a ball he can pull, a ball he can drive.
And instead, he gets a picture-perfect strike on the corner.
George asking the umpire a lot of times, as we talked about earlier, a good hitter wants to know what the strike zone is. He said it got to the corner. He said, yep, so next time if it's out there, you're probably going to see him swing.
Looks like he's sticking with his fastball. He has not thrown a breaking ball yet. Struck out Lonnie Smith on all fastballs and 2 straight fastballs to Brett after throwing a 3-2 fastball to Willie Wilson. So he's going to stick with the heat, it appears.
Could be the Darryl Strawberry syndrome. Some guys are fast learners. We talked about bat speed. If you throw a fastball by a guy like Brett and come back with a hanging curveball, the chances are he's going to have one heck of a swing.
And he struck him out. And did that silence the crowd? The anticipation and then the dead silence.
Greg, Reggie Jackson and I were talking about this very thing before the ball game. The easiest pitch for a left-handed hitter to hit off a left-handed pitcher, all things considered equal, is a curveball. And that's why Powder River is usually your best pitch, because you don't give a left-handed hitter a chance to adjust to a pitch, whereas a curveball you do.
So Herzog has opted for Daly to stay in to face right because he knows what kind of stuff Ken has. He has Worrell throwing in the bullpen. And Brett got on. As you look at Herzog, he had Worrell to come in to face the righty if he wanted him here. But Daly throwing so hard, striking out Smith, striking out Brett, and nearly striking Wilson out. Whitey leaves him in to face the right-hand batter. And that's fouled back, right back toward us. 1-1.
Alfalfa, you displayed some tremendous quickness.
I do know how to get under the table. One ball, one strike the count. 2 down, bottom of the 8th inning. 1-0 Cardinals. Wilson at first base.
Just a matter of time, one would think, with 2 out, when Willie Wilson is going to run. Darrell Porter out to talk to Daly now. That also might be one of the reasons that Todd Worrell is not in there with Wilson at first base. Worrell does not have as good a move as the left-hander, and even though Daly hadn't thrown over there, the very fact that he's a left-hander has kept Wilson at first.
Willie thought about going and hesitates, and it's a fly ball to center field and a lot of room for McGee. And we'll go to the 9th inning. Brian Harper driving in the game's only run with a 2-out single in the 8th. At the end of 8th, 1-0 St. Louis. 9th inning, 1-0 Cardinals. Tommy Herr to lead things off against Dan Quisenberry. Herr, Clark, and Landrum. And then in the bottom of the 9th inning, Sheridan is due up. But remember, with Daly in the game, you can forget about Sheridan if Daly stays in. Balboni and Sundberg to follow. Tommy Herr takes outside, ball 1. 1-0 the count. 1 run, 4 hits, and no errors for the Cards. No run, 7 hits, and no errors for the Royals. If the Cardinals do win and don't score more than 1 run here in the 9th inning, they will have gone 53 innings in the World Series with 1 multiple run inning, the 9th in game 2, and won the World Series, and that's almost impossible.
And they'll be the first team since 1948 to have a player, and that's Tommy Herr, who drove in over 100 during the season and didn't respond during the World Series with an RBI. A lot of weird offensive stats after this series, if it remains the same, of course.
2-1 the count. It's one of those series where the box scores in latter years won't mean anything. That's a broken bat bouncer down to Balboni for the out. What people will remember if this World Series ends tonight are some visual images that have nothing to do with the box scores. Brett going into the dugout would be one, and Lebrand
going into the dugout.
Oh yes,
will be another.
Absolutely.
No asterisks to explain that maybe one of the reasons their ball club, talking about Kansas City, got here in the first place is because of the DH, and 17% of their runs were scored by that position. And absolutely no help from that position once they got here.
0-1 the count on Clark. 1 out. Bases empty. The Royals certainly have had their chances tonight, and in fact George Brett has come up in a couple of situations where you want him up and just hasn't produced. 0-2 the count. There is George, who tonight struck out with a man at third in the first inning, so he couldn't bring home Lonnie Smith with 1 out. He opened the 4th inning by flying out. Then he came up with Wilson aboard in the 6th inning and hit into a double play, and they had him up there with Wilson on in the 8th inning. And 1 out, and he struck out. So they've had their chances and haven't cashed. They've left 7. And Clark is down on strike. So there are 2 down, and Landrum is the batter. If the Cardinals win, it would be their 10th World Series championship. And we pointed out earlier this week, only the Yankees have won more, 22. The Royals have never won one. Born in '69, they lost the series in their only other appearance in '80. On the subject of visual images that we'll recall, how about Landrum's performance the first couple of nights? The first 4, in fact.
How about Landrum's throw in game 2? The 2 plays at the plate. Both very important. Actually 3 in the plate, at the plate.
Brett Saberhagen in the dugout.
Oh, yeah.
Asking how Janine is.
That's a little squiver, and Brett lets it roll and falls down. Slipping down, it turns out to be a foul ball. John Tudor, he's so stoic that his performance and his face as you watch Brett fall down doesn't lend itself to remembering through the years Tudor's performance, but what he has done really speaks for itself.
He's worked 15 2/3 innings, and he's 2-0 against the Royals.
One ball, 2 strikes the count. And that's a little nubber, and Sundberg will have to play this one, throw, and doesn't get him. Landrum beats it out.
Pounds it into the ground. It's going to be a great play by Sundberg, but it also illustrates that Landrum can run. Right on the money. Beats it by a half a step. Make that play much better. You're a catcher.
Now Pendleton, who's base hit with 1 out in the 8th inning, led to the Cardinal run. He singled, Cedeno walked, and then with 2 out and 2 strikes, Harper softly singled to center.
Another running situation for the Cardinals. Going to pick up that extra run. The yardstick almost to see whether a runner is going is whether his right foot is out on the carpet. Landrum just about there, but not quite.
Fly ball to center field. Quisenberry does his job, and the Royals have 3 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning to work with. 1-0 St. Louis after 8 1/2. In the bottom of the 9th inning, with Ken Daly working for St. Louis, Darryl Motley, the right-hand batter, will lead things off. Then Balboni and Sundberg. In the bullpen, the Cardinals with their 2 right-handers, Todd Worrell on the left and Jeff Lottie on the right. 1-0 St. Louis. The Cardinals 3 outs away from giving Whitey Herzog a 2nd World Championship in 4 seasons. And time is called right now as Herzog, after the announcement is made that Motley is in the game, walks to the mound. And he wants the right-hander. So with Motley in the game, he wanted to make sure he was announced. And he wants Worrell, who struck out the 6 men he faced in Game 5. And we can tell you, since we have a moment, this telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Todd Worrell, and the story is well known now know, but it's worth repeating under these circumstances. You begin the season in AAA in Louisville, Kentucky, in the American Association as Daly departs. And you're pitching in the minors, and you're not traveling first class or charter, and you're not staying in real good hotels, and you're not eating real good food because your meal money won't cover it. And somebody says in the middle of the season, we want to make you a relief pitcher. And then all of a sudden you get called up in August, and here you are trying to win the World Series. I spoke with him earlier.
In your role right now and the type of pitcher you are, a power pitcher, do you come into the game just seeking an out, or do you come in seeking a strikeout?
It depends on the situation. Being a power pitcher, and especially the situation I was in the last time I pitched in Cardinals Stadium, I wasn't going for strikeouts. You know, we were down 4-1. My main concern was shutting the door on the Royals and trying to give our guys a chance to rally on 3 runs.
Meanwhile, George Orta will pinch hit for Motley. So here's an inning that hasn't even started, and we've had 3 changes. A pinch hitter, a new pitcher, and then a pinch hitter for the pinch hitter. Orta looks at a strike on the outer half. Balboni on deck, and then Sundberg. Nobody has ever struck out 7 straight over 2 games in the history of the World Series, and Worrell is a strike away from doing that.
Well, he has tremendous poise. You talk about poise, especially about a young pitcher. You're talking about the ability to throw your stuff over the plate. So far in this World Series, all year, he's been able to do it.
Popped foul and curling back out of play. It'll be in about 12 rows. Sparky Anderson, the Tiger manager, interviewing Worrell on Good Morning America the other day, ended the interview, and I loved it. He said, "Todd, thank God you're in the National League, and stay there." Little squibber to the right side. Worrell races over to cover. The throw doesn't get him. Worrell got to the bag, and an argument here, and here comes Herzog amongst the other quartet. First base umpire is Dinkinger, American League.
Well, this is spring training all over again. Any ball to the right side, you get there as quick as you can. I think he tries to go for the ball. And his argument is he gets the side of the bag. Looks like he's out.
From that angle, let's take a look from this one.
Again, Clark with the toss.
Oh, yes.
Right on top of the bag.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Only in one person's mind.
So Orta gets on, and Balboni is at the plate. Balboni has singled, flied out, and walked. You're in a funny situation here, too. Here's your power guy, but in a bunt situation, really.
Well, the classic line is you play to win on the road and tie at home. But only, again, the manager's job is to work within the limitations of his player. And I'm not sure if Steve Balboni can bunt.
And the Cardinals don't expect him to. He pops it up in foul ground, and Clark comes over to the dugout with Porter, and Clark doesn't know where he is and can't make the play. And what's happening in the 9th inning, and you can see the shoulder hunch, Clark has spent his whole career in right field. He has made a pretty good adjustment to first base, but he came off the bag, and I'm not saying he made the mistake on a Motley ball, but he's been involved now in the first 2 plays of the 9th inning.
Well, the mistake he makes is looking at Porter. By then, the ball is back over his head. Talked to him before the series. He said he really hasn't felt comfortable at first base, especially on throwing. There is another example.
0-2, and Balboni trying to hit that one onto into the freeway.
And having the capabilities of doing that. We talked about the 96-mile-per-hour fastball. He also has an excellent slider, but he said in this situation, if you're going to get beat, and a home run will beat him, he said you got to go with number one. Let's see if he does it.
McRae on deck. Base hit into left field. Orta stops at second. Comes Herzog. Onyx Concepcion goes into pinch run. McRae had been out on deck. Now Sundberg returns to the on-deck circle. There is the pinch runner. Herzog has the two in the bullpen. Horton, the lefty who took Worrell's place out there, and the right-hander Lottie. So first and second, not only talking to Worrell, but talking about the bunt. He's going to leave him in as they discuss situation here. And McRae had come out on deck to bat for Sundberg. But in this situation, what Hauser is telling you is that Sundberg's a good bunter, and he's going to try to get him along. And he's going to save McRae.
When you do bunt, and if Sundberg's successful, then Whitey can play his little game. They send McRae up. You can walk him. Again, the winning run is at first base.
Clark creeps in. So does Pendleton. Outside. Biancalana due up next.
Well, Tim McCarver has been talking all World Series about the difficulty of bunting on artificial turf. Take a look at the infielders when the pitch goes across home plate. They will be about 15 feet from home plate, trying to get that force at third.
That's outside, and it's 2-0.
You almost want Jim Sundberg to be able to bunt. There's been too many low strikes all night. Into the ball game. If you're Todd Worrell, you want Jim Sundberg to bunt the ball, but sometimes you just can't get the ball over home plate.
He bunts in the air, foul, and Porter can't make the play. And a break for Sundberg as he pops it up back to the screen. And that's one thing about a fastball coming in at 92 or 93 miles per hour. You will pop them far back.
Well, especially if it's up in the strike zone. And they tell you, of course, there's conflicting philosophies. If the guy squares around a bunt, he's more apt to pop up the high pitch.
He squares. He bunts to Clark, who lets it roll foul, and the count is 2-2. So Orta returns to second. Concepcion to first. Clark that time, you could almost sense it in his mind, wasn't quite sure what he was going to do with it for a second.
Another illustration of his inexperience in first place. Excuse me, at first base.
2-2. And now Sundberg really compelled to swing away, though Pendleton remains shallow at third. Now he starts to back up. But he's going to bunt with 2 strikes. Lays it down. Worrell looks at third, throws, and gets him on a close play at third. And that couldn't be any closer.
bunt almost right back to Worrell, who breaks the wrong way. Again, no hesitation.
Good call. Jim McKean, American League, calling that one.
Once again, not by much, but he was out.
All right, now McRae. The designated hitter pinch hits for Biancalana. Cal came up the other night and grounded out with the bases loaded in St. Louis. 1-0.
I wonder if Hal, coming up off Tudor the other night, swinging a very low pitch, bases loaded, is going to try to be a little more selective.
That gets away from Porter, and the runners move up. It also takes the bat out of McRae's hands with second and third.
Certainly does. It almost looked like he crossed up Porter. First slider he's thrown tonight.
Pass ball is the ruling, so second and third, the tying run at third, the winning run at second. Porter with Worrell in the count 2-0.
As I said, maybe they did get their signs mixed up. Looked like Porter's looking fastball.
And you can see the four fingers held up by Hal Lanier, indicating he doesn't have to hold up 4, he only has to hold up 2 because the count's already 2-0. So they'll walk McRae, and Dean Orge is out on deck to pinch hit. This is some boring World Series, isn't it?
Question in my mind as Orge comes up, will Herzog come out?
Whitey, back to Lanier. Mike Bork, trainer Gene Gieselman. Lanier signaling the infielders as they align themselves here. Orge, a Cardinal in the 1982 World Series, and he had a terrific World Series.
5:29.
The infield double play depth short and second and up in the corners, and there it is visually for you.
Play is if it's hit to first or third, you're coming home. To get the tying run, it's hit to the middle infielders. Most likely they'll try for 2 unless the only play they have is at the plate.
Concepcion at third, Sundberg at second. And it's low, ball 1. John Watson is the runner at first base running for McRae. He's important too because a force play, there he is. A force at second would be a big play. And that's a looper hitting the right field for a base hit. Concepcion scores. Here comes Sundberg. Here's the throw. He scores. We go to a 7th. that at Busch the other night.